In the quiet town of Willow Creek, a single gunshot shatters 11-year-old Ava Thompson's world, leaving her beloved therapy dog, Luna, bleeding on the grass. As whispers of injustice swirl and powerful forces close in, Ava's heart clings to hope, her courage sparking a fight for truth. With her father far away and a community divided, one girl's love for her dog becomes a beacon of resilience. Will Ava's voice be enough to save Luna and heal a town teetering on the edge? The late afternoon sun bathed Willow Creek in a golden glow, casting long shadows across the quiet streets lined with craftsman homes and blooming dogwood trees. At the edge of town, where the sidewalks curved past a small park with a bubbling fountain, 11-year-old Ava Thompson walked hand in hand with her golden retriever, Luna. The pair moved in perfect sync, Ava's sneakers scuffing softly against the pavement, Luna's tail wagging like a metronome. To anyone watching, they were inseparable, a girl and her dog bound by something deeper than a leash. Ava was small for her age, with expressive hazel eyes that seemed to hold both curiosity and caution. Her braided hair, adorned with a single blue bead, bounced lightly as she walked. She wore a faded denim jacket covered in hand-painted stars, a project she'd started with her mother years ago and finished alone after her mother's death from leukemia. That loss, 3 years past, had dimmed Ava's once sparkling laughter, leaving her quiet and watchful in a world that felt less safe. In Willow Creek, a picturesque but insular suburb where the Thompsons were among the few black families, Ava navigated her days with the careful grace of someone who knew she stood out. Luna, with her honey gold fur and soulful brown eyes, was Ava's anchor. A certified therapy dog, she'd been a gift from Ava's father, Lieutenant Colonel David Thompson, after the funeral. Luna had an uncanny knack for sensing Ava's moods, pressing her warm body against Ava's side during nightmares or nudging her gently when sadness crept in. Trained to respond to subtle cues, Luna could fetch Ava's sketchbook when words failed or lie still for hours while Ava painted, her steady breathing a reminder that love could still be trusted. In a town where neighbors' smiles sometimes felt forced and whispers followed Ava at the grocery store, Luna was her truest friend. David Thompson, at 40, carried the weight of his Army Ranger career like a second skin. Tall and broad-shouldered, with a disciplined stride and close-cropped hair graying at the temples, he moved through life with the precision of a man who'd faced danger and won. His deployments to conflict zones were classified, his medals tucked away in a locked drawer rather than displayed. Yet despite his stoic exterior, David's love for Ava was fierce and unguarded. He'd read her bedtime stories over video calls from halfway across the world, his deep voice softening as he described constellations she dreamed of painting. Widowhood had carved new lines around his eyes, and each separation from Ava felt like a fresh wound, but he believed his service protected the world she'd grow up in, the Thompsons' home, a cozy craftsman with a wraparound porch and a garden. Ava, tended with Luna at her side, stood out in Willow Creek. It was modest compared to the sprawling estates of their neighbors, whose luxury SUVs and manicured lawns spoke of old money and older prejudices. The town prided itself on its charm. Annual festivals, a historic library, a park where children played under watchful eyes. But beneath the surface, Ava sensed a quiet resistance to change. Her family's arrival 6 months ago had stirred murmurs. New folks, some called them, their voices laced with curiosity or suspicion. Ava had learned which streets to avoid, which neighbors averted their eyes, and which, like old Mr. Jenkins across the street, waved warmly and slipped Luna a treat. That afternoon, as Ava and Luna rounded the park's edge, the air was crisp with the promise of autumn. Ava clutched her sketchbook, planning to draw the fountain's shimmer before dinner. Luna trotted happily, her collar jangling, her nose twitching at the scent of squirrels darting through the grass. Ava hummed softly, a tune her mother used to sing, and Luna's ears perked up, her head tilting as if joining the melody. For a moment, the world felt right, safe even, in the way only a child and her dog could make it. "Almost home, girl," Ava said, scratching Luna's ears. Luna's tail thumped, and she pressed her nose against Ava's hand, her warmth a steady comfort. Ava glanced at the sky, where the first stars would soon appear. She'd promised her father, deployed for the past month, that she'd sketch Orion for him tonight. David's letters, delivered by military mail, were filled with encouragement for her art and promises of a stargazing trip when he returned. Ava clung to those promises, just as she clung to Luna's leash. Mr. Jenkins, a wiry retiree with kind eyes and a limp from an old injury, waved from his porch as they passed. "Looking mighty fine today, Luna," he called, his voice warm with affection. Ava smiled shyly, her usual reserve softening. Mr. Jenkins always greeted Luna first, understanding instinctively that the dog was Ava's bridge to the world. "Thanks, Mr. Jenkins," she replied, her voice soft but clear. Luna wagged her tail, her dignified demeanor giving way to a playful hop that made Ava giggle. Inside their home, Ava's Aunt Nicole was cooking, the scent of rosemary and garlic, drifting through the open windows. Nicole, a social worker with a quick laugh and a fierce protective streak, stayed with Ava during David's deployments. Her apartment was only a short drive away, but she treated the Thompson house like her own, filling it with music and warmth. "Dinner in 30, Ava," Nicole called as Ava unclipped Luna's leash. Luna bounded to her water bowl, lapping noisily, while Ava set her sketchbook on the kitchen table, already imagining her next painting. Willow Creek's beauty masked its tensions, but for Ava, Luna's presence made it bearable. The dog's loyalty was a shield against the world's sharp edges, a reminder that love could endure loss. As Ava and Luna settled into their routine, unaware of the storm about to break, their bond glowed like a beacon, promising a story of resilience and hope. The golden light of Willow Creek's late afternoon deepened, painting the park in hues of amber and rose. Ava Thompson, her sketchbook tucked under one arm, walked Luna along the familiar path by the fountain, where water sparkled like liquid diamonds. Luna's golden retriever fur caught the sunlight, and her gentle trot matched Ava's unhurried pace. The air carried the crisp bite of early fall, and Ava's thoughts drifted to her father's latest letter, promising a telescope for her birthday. She smiled, imagining the stars they'd named together. Luna, sensing her mood, nudged Ava's hand with a wet nose, earning a soft laugh. "All right, girl, one more loop," Ava said, her voice barely above a whisper. Luna's tail wagged, and she bounded forward, her leash loose in Ava's grip. The park was quiet, save for a few joggers and a mother pushing a stroller. Ava felt safe here, cocooned by Luna's presence and the rhythm of their daily ritual. She didn't notice the police cruiser rolling slowly along the park's perimeter, its windows glinting in the fading light. Near the fountain, a squirrel darted across the grass, its bushy tail a blur. Luna, ever the playful spirit, let out a single excited bark and tugged gently at the leash, her front paws lifting in a half-hop. Ava giggled, pulling her back. "No chasing today, Luna?" she teased, kneeling to ruffle the dog's ears. Luna's eyes sparkled with mischief, but she settled obediently, her tail sweeping arcs across the ground. The cruiser stopped abruptly, its tires crunching on gravel. Two officers stepped out, their boots heavy on the pavement. Sergeant Daniels, a broad man with a stern jaw and close-cropped hair, led the way, his hand resting on his holster. His partner, Officer Reynolds, younger and slighter, followed, his expression unreadable. Ava's stomach tightened, a reflex born of her father's lessons in situational awareness. She stood, gripping Luna's leash, and kept her eyes on the ground, hoping they'd pass. "Evening, kid," Daniels called, his voice sharp, not friendly. Ava glanced up, her hazel eyes meeting his cold stare. Luna shifted closer, her body aligning with Ava's, a protective instinct honed by training. "That dog under control?" Daniels asked, stepping closer. His tone carried an edge that made Ava's skin prickle. "Yes, sir," Ava replied softly, her voice steady despite the flutter in her chest. "She's trained. She's my therapy dog." Luna sat perfectly still, her intelligent eyes flicking between Ava and the officers, reading the tension. Daniels snorted, his gaze lingering on Luna. "Big dog for a little girl. We got a call about a loose animal causing trouble." His words felt like a challenge, though Ava knew no such call existed. Luna hadn't left her side. Reynolds shifted uncomfortably, his hand hovering near his radio, but he said nothing. "There's no trouble, sir," Ava said, her fingers tightening on the leash. "We're just walking." Luna's ears twitched, but she remained calm, her training overriding any urge to react. Across the park, Mr. Jenkins, who'd been reading on a bench, looked up, his brow furrowing. He slipped his phone from his pocket, subtly angling it toward the scene. Daniels took another step, his boots inches from Luna's paws. "Don't look controlled to me," he muttered, his eyes narrowing. Then, without warning, a squirrel bolted from a nearby bush, skittering across the path. Luna, startled, lunged forward, not at Daniels but toward the squirrel, her playful instincts kicking in. The leash slipped from Ava's small hands, and Luna bounded 2 steps before Ava's sharp, "Luna, stay!" stopped her cold. Luna froze, tail wagging, and trotted back to Ava's side, sitting as if nothing had happened. But Daniels moved, faster than Ava could process. "Aggressive animal!" he shouted, drawing his service weapon in one fluid motion. The crack of the gunshot shattered the park's tranquility, echoing like a whip. Luna yelped, a sound Ava had never heard, and crumpled to the grass, blood blooming across her golden fur. Ava's scream tore through the air, raw and primal, as she dropped to her knees beside her dog. "Luna! No, Luna, please!" Ava's small hands pressed desperately against the wound, blood seeping through her fingers. Her denim jacket, speckled with painted stars, stained red. Luna's eyes, wide with pain, found Ava's, and her tail thumped weakly once, a final effort to comfort. Ava's world collapsed into a singularity of fear and grief, her sobs choking out words. "She wasn't hurting anyone. Why did you do that?" Daniels lowered his weapon, a thin wisp of smoke curling from the barrel. "The dog lunged," he said flatly, holstering his gun. It was a threat. Reynolds stepped forward, his face pale, and placed a hand on Ava's shoulder. "Stay back, kid. Animal control's on the way." His voice was softer, but it did nothing to soothe Ava's anguish. "She's not a threat," Ava cried, her voice breaking. "She's my dog. She's my family." Blood coated her hands, and Luna's breathing grew shallow, each gasp a dagger in Ava's chest. Across the park, Mr. Jenkins was already dialing 911, his phone still recording, capturing Daniels's unyielding stance and Ava's crumpled form. A jogger paused, pulling out her phone, and the mother with the stroller gasped, her hand over her mouth. "You didn't have to shoot her," Ava screamed at Daniels, her tears falling onto Luna's fur. "She was coming back to me." Daniels didn't flinch, his expression cold. "Control your animal next time," he said, turning away as if Ava's world hadn't just shattered. From his bench, Mr. Jenkins' voice carried, firm despite his age. "I saw it all. That dog wasn't aggressive. You hear me, officer?" Daniels ignored him, but Reynolds glanced over, his jaw tightening. Ava barely registered the exchange, her focus locked on Luna, whispering, "Stay with me, Luna. Please, stay." Animal control arrived minutes later, their van screeching to a halt. A technician knelt beside Luna, assessing her with practiced calm. "She's still alive," he said, his voice low. "We need to get her to the vet now." Ava clung to Luna's collar, her bloodied hands trembling as they loaded her dog onto a stretcher. "I'm going with her," Ava insisted, her voice fierce through her tears. Reynolds hesitated, then nodded. "All right, kid, but you ride with us?" As they guided Ava to the cruiser, her eyes never left Luna, loaded into the van. Mr. Jenkins approached, his face etched with sorrow. "I'm calling your aunt, Ava, and I've got this recorded. We'll make this right." Ava barely nodded, her world narrowing to the hope that Luna would survive. In the cruiser, Ava sat in the back, her blood-stained jacket wrapped tightly around her. The radio crackled, but she heard nothing, her mind replaying the gunshot, Luna's yelp, the blood. Her father was thousands of miles away, and Luna, her lifeline, was fighting for her life. As the cruiser pulled away, Ava whispered, "You have to be okay, Luna. You have to." The fluorescent lights of Willow Creek's emergency veterinary clinic buzzed overhead, casting a sterile glow on the waiting room's linoleum floor. Ava Thompson sat hunched in a plastic chair, her blood-stained denim jacket draped over her lap like a shield. Her hands, still smeared with Luna's blood, trembled as she clutched a crumpled tissue, her hazel eyes fixed on the double doors leading to the surgery suite. The antiseptic smell stung her nose, and the faint whimpers of other animals in the clinic echoed her own fear. Luna, her golden retriever, was fighting for her life, and Ava felt as if her own heart hung in the balance. Officer Reynolds stood near the reception desk, filling out paperwork with a pen that scratched loudly in the quiet room. His face, pale and drawn, betrayed a flicker of unease, though he avoided Ava's gaze. Sergeant Daniels, the officer who'd shot Luna, was nowhere to be seen. He'd remained at the park, dealing with animal control and the growing crowd of onlookers. Ava's sobs had quieted, but her chest ached with a grief too big for her small frame. She replayed the moment of the gunshot, Luna's yelp, the blood pooling on the grass. How could a playful hop toward a squirrel end like this? The waiting. Room door swung open, and Aunt Nicole burst in, her coat askew and her eyes wild with worry. A social worker accustomed to crises, Nicole's usual composure cracked at the sight of Ava, bloodied and hollow-eyed. "Ava, sweetheart," she cried, crossing the room in 3 strides to envelop her niece in a fierce hug. Ava collapsed against her, fresh tears soaking Nicole's sweater. "Mr. Jenkins called me," Nicole murmured, stroking Ava's braids. "I'm here now. Luna's going to be okay, I promise." Ava pulled back, her voice barely a whisper. "She's hurt bad, Aunt Nicole. The bullet, there was so much blood." Her hands gestured helplessly, the dried blood flaking onto her jacket. "They said she was dangerous, but Luna wasn't doing anything wrong. She was just being Luna." Nicole's jaw tightened, her gaze flicking to Reynolds, who shifted uncomfortably under her scrutiny. "I know, baby," she said, keeping her voice steady for Ava's sake. "Mr. Jenkins sent me the video. We'll figure this out." She pulled Ava close again, her mind already racing with questions about protocol and accountability. As a social worker, Nicole had seen the system fail too many people, and the thought of it failing Ava now ignited a quiet fury. Reynolds approached, his clipboard tucked under his arm. "Ma'am, the vet's working on the dog now. It'll be a while. The girl can go home with you, but we'll need a statement later." His tone was professional, but there was a hesitancy in his eyes, as if he knew the official narrative was shaky. Nicole stood, placing herself between Ava and the officer. "A statement. She's 11 years old and she just watched her dog get shot. You're not questioning her tonight." Her voice was calm but edged with steel. "And I want to know why your partner opened fire on a trained therapy dog without provocation. I've seen the video, officer. That dog wasn't a threat." Reynolds opened his mouth, then closed it, glancing at the receptionist as if seeking rescue. "Sergeant Daniels followed protocol," he said finally, the words sounding rehearsed. "The dog lunged, and there was a public safety concern. We're investigating, but—" "Investigating?" Nicole interrupted, her voice rising. "You?" "Mean covering up. That video's already online and people are talking. You don't get to rewrite this one." Ava looked up, startled by her aunt's intensity, but a spark of hope flickered in her chest. Maybe someone would listen. Maybe Luna's pain wouldn't be swept away. The double doors swung open, and a veterinarian in green scrubs emerged, her face weary but composed. Ava sprang to her feet, her heart pounding. "Is Luna okay?" she asked, her voice breaking. The vet, Dr. Patel, knelt to Ava's level, her eyes kind. "Luna's in critical condition, but she's a fighter. The bullet hit her shoulder. Missing. Major organs, but she's lost a lot of blood. We've stabilized her for now and she's in surgery to remove the bullet. We'll know more in a few hours." She placed a gentle hand on Ava's shoulder. "You did good getting her here so fast." Ava nodded, tears spilling over. "Can I see her?" she whispered. "Not yet, sweetheart," Dr. Patel said softly. "But I promise we're doing everything we can. Go home, rest, and we'll call with updates." Ava's shoulders sagged, but she clung to the word fighter, repeating it, silently like a prayer. Nicole thanked the vet, then guided Ava toward the exit, her arm around her niece's trembling frame. Reynolds followed, offering a quiet, "We'll be in touch," before heading to his cruiser. Outside, the night air was cool, and Willow Creek streetlights cast long shadows. Ava clutched her stained jacket, the painted stars now marred. With blood, a cruel reminder of the day's violence. In the car, Nicole kept the radio off, the silence heavy but comforting. Ava stared out the window, her mind replaying Luna's weak tail thump, her trusting eyes. "Why did he shoot her, Aunt Nicole?" she asked, her voice small. "Luna didn't hurt anybody. She helps me. She's supposed to keep me safe." Nicole's hands tightened on the steering wheel, her knuckles paling. "I don't know, Ava," she admitted, her voice thick. "Sometimes people make mistakes and sometimes they let fear or prejudice cloud their judgment. But we're not going to let this go. Luna's going to pull through and we're going to make sure people know the truth." Ava nodded, though doubt gnawed at her. Her father, David, was halfway across the world, unreachable in some classified mission. Luna was in surgery, and Ava felt powerless, a child against a system that seemed to close ranks. But Mr. Jenkins' video, now circulating online, was a lifeline. She pictured his kind face, his steady voice promising justice. Maybe, just maybe, Luna's story would be heard. At home, Nicole tucked Ava into bed, leaving Luna's empty dog bed untouched in the corner. Ava curled up, clutching Luna's favorite squeaky toy, its worn fabric a faint comfort. As Nicole dialed military channels to reach David, Ava whispered, to the darkness, "You're a fighter, Luna. You have to come back to me." Across town, Mr. Jenkins sat at his kitchen table, uploading his video to a local journalist's inbox, his hands steady despite his anger. The footage, clear and damning, showed Luna's playful hop, Daniel's quick draw, Ava's screams. Willow Creek was about to face a reckoning, and Ava's fight for Luna was just beginning. Ava Thompson lay awake in her darkened bedroom, the glow of a single star-shaped nightlight casting soft shadows across the walls. Luna's squeaky toy, a worn plush bone, was clutched tightly against her chest, its faint scent of peanut butter and dog fur, a fragile tether to her injured golden retriever. The house was quiet, save for the muffled sound of Aunt Nicole's voice on the phone, still trying to reach Ava's father, David, through military channels. Ava's eyes traced the constellation decals on her ceiling, ones she'd painted with. Her mother, Leah, before cancer stole her away 3 years ago. Those stars, once a symbol of wonder, now felt distant, mocking her with their permanence while Luna fought for her life in a veterinary clinic across town. At 11, Ava had known loss too intimately for her years. Leah's illness had been a slow erosion marked by hospital visits, whispered conversations, and a final unbearable silence. Ava, then 8, had retreated into herself, her laughter replaced by long stretches of quiet. Her love for painting, sparked by Leah's own artistic spirit, became her refuge. She filled sketchbooks with vibrant galaxies, comets, and nebulae, each stroke a way to hold on to her mother's memory. But grief had dulled her colors, and after Leah's death, Ava's world shrank to the small, safe space between her and her father. David, a lieutenant colonel in the Army Rangers, had been Ava's rock, though his deployments carved gaps in their time together. He'd always understood her need for expression, gifting her paints and brushes, reading her stories about astronomers who mapped the stars. But when Leah died, David saw Ava's light fading and knew he couldn't fill the void alone. That's when Luna entered their lives, a golden retriever puppy with soulful eyes trained as a therapy dog to sense Ava's distress. David had chosen her carefully, knowing Luna's gentle presence could reach Ava where words failed. Luna became Ava's lifeline. The dog slept at the foot of her bed, her warmth chasing away nightmares of hospital rooms and empty chairs. When Ava woke screaming, Luna would nudge her with a wet nose, licking her tears until she calmed. During the day, Luna was Ava's shadow, lying patiently as Ava painted, her tail thumping softly as if approving each brushstroke. Luna could fetch Ava's sketchbook on command, a trick that made Ava giggle, and her quiet strength helped Ava face the world again. Slowly, Ava began to speak more, to smile, to believe in a future beyond her grief. Luna wasn't just a pet, she was family, a bridge between the Ava who'd lost everything and the Ava who might still hope. The move to Willow Creek 6 months ago had tested that hope. David, seeking a fresh start, had chosen the town for its quiet charm and good schools, hoping it would be a place for Ava to thrive. But Willow Creek's polished exterior hid a subtle hostility. Ava noticed it in the way some neighbors stared, their smiles tight, or how children at school whispered when she passed. Her blackness, unremarkable in her old diverse city, felt like a spotlight here. She learned to keep her head down, to avoid certain streets, to let Luna's presence deflect curious glances. Luna, with her calm demeanor and therapy vest, made people hesitate before approaching, giving Ava space to breathe. Now as Ava lay in bed, the memory of Luna's bloodied fur and pained yelp seared her mind. The injustice of it, Sergeant Daniels' cold claim that Luna was dangerous, the gunshot that shattered her world, ignited something fierce in her. Luna hadn't just been shot, she'd been targeted. Ava was sure of it. The officer's quick, "Draw," his dismissive tone, the way he'd ignored her pleas. It felt personal, like a message that she and Luna didn't belong. Ava's grief mingled with a growing resolve, a spark that burned brighter with each replay of the moment. She sat up, her bare feet touching the cold hardwood floor, and reached for her sketchbook on the nightstand. Flipping to a blank page, she began to draw, her pencil moving with urgent, shaky strokes. Luna's face emerged, her kind eyes, her floppy ears, the curve of her tail. Ava's tears smudged the graphite, but she kept going, pouring her love and fear into the lines. "You're not dangerous," she whispered to the drawing. "You're my best friend. I'm going to save you." Her thoughts turned to her father. David had taught her to stand tall, to face fear with courage. "You're stronger than you know, Ava," he'd say, his voice steady even over crackling video calls. She imagined him now, somewhere far away, unaware of Luna's pain. If he were here, he'd fight for them, she knew it. But he wasn't, and Ava felt the weight of that absence. Yet Mr. Jenkins's video, now spreading online, and Nicole's fierce determination gave her a glimmer of hope. Maybe she didn't have to fight alone. Ava's motivation crystallized. She would save Luna, not just by praying for her recovery, but by making sure the truth came out. Luna deserved justice, and Ava deserved to feel safe again. She thought of her mother's words, spoken during a painting session years ago. "Art can tell stories, Ava. Use it to say what matters." Ava's sketches could do that. Show the world who Luna really was, not the threat Daniels claimed. She'd fight for Luna the only way she knew how, with her heart, her art, and the stubborn courage her parents had instilled in her. Downstairs, Nicole finally got through to a military liaison, her voice low but urgent as she relayed the crisis. Ava didn't hear the conversation, but she felt a shift, a sense that the wheels of justice might turn. She closed her sketchbook, tucking Luna's toy under her pillow, and made a silent vow. "I'll make them see, Luna," she promised. "I'll make them know you're good, and I'll bring you home." Her resolve was a small flame, fragile but growing, fueled by love and loss. Ava didn't know how she'd face the days ahead, but for Luna, she'd try. She curled up under her blanket, the nightlight stars watching over her, and clung to the hope that her dog, her family, would survive. The morning after Luna's shooting, Willow Creek woke to a storm of whispers and notifications. Ava Thompson sat at the kitchen table, her untouched cereal soggy in its bowl, her sketchbook open to the drawing of Luna she'd poured her heart into the night before. The house felt hollow without Luna's familiar patter or the jingle of her collar. Aunt Nicole, her eyes rimmed with fatigue from a sleepless night, scrolled through her phone, her expression darkening with each new headline. Mr. Jenkins's video, now viral on local social media, had ignited a firestorm, with comments ranging from outrage to defense of Sergeant Daniels. Ava's world, already fractured, seemed to teeter on the edge of collapse. Nicole set her phone down, forcing a gentle smile. "Luna's still stable, sweetheart," she said, relaying the vet's early morning update. "Dr. Patel says she made it through the night and they're hopeful." Ava nodded, clutching Luna's squeaky toy, but the word hopeful felt too flimsy against the memory of blood and gunfire. She wanted Luna home, curled at her feet, not hooked to machines, in a sterile cage. The doorbell rang, sharp and insistent, breaking the tense silence. Nicole frowned, glancing at Ava. "Stay here," she said, crossing to the door. Ava peeked from the kitchen, her heart thudding as Nicole opened it to reveal a man in a suit, flanked by a woman with a clipboard. "Ms. Thompson?" the man asked, his tone clipped. "I'm Richard Hale, Child Protective Services. This is my colleague, Ellen Morse. We need to speak with you about Ava." Ava's stomach dropped, her fingers tightening around the toy. Nicole's voice sharpened. "CPS? On what grounds?" Hale's expression remained neutral, but his eyes flicked toward Ava, who shrank back. "We received a report concerning Ava's safety, citing an unstable home environment due to her father's prolonged absences and recent incidents. We're here to assess." Nicole stepped forward, blocking the doorway. "This is about Luna, isn't it? A retaliation stunt because we're pushing back against that officer's actions. Ava's father is a decorated Army Ranger, and I'm her legal guardian while he's deployed. She's safe and cared for." Hale didn't flinch. "We're obligated to investigate any credible report, ma'am. May we come in?" Ava's mind raced. A report? Who would say she wasn't safe? The only instability was the hole Luna's absence left, the fear Daniel's gunshot had carved into her. Nicole relented, letting them in but insisting on calling her lawyer. As Hale and Morse sat in the living room, their questions probing about David's deployments, Ava's emotional state, the trauma of the shooting, Ava felt like a specimen under a microscope. She answered softly, her voice steady, despite the ache in her chest, but each question felt like a trap, twisting her grief into evidence against her family. After they left, Nicole's fury erupted. "This is no coincidence, Ava. That report came from someone connected to Daniels. I'd bet my career on it. They're trying to scare us into backing off." Ava's eyes welled up. "Are they going to take me away?" she whispered. Nicole knelt before her, gripping her shoulders. "No one's taking you anywhere, I promise." At the veterinary clinic later that day, the news was grimmer. Dr. Patel met them in a quiet exam room, her face etched with concern. "Luna's stable, but there's pressure from the police department to release her early. They're claiming she's a public safety risk and should be kennelled pending an investigation." Nicole's eyes flashed. "A risk? She's a therapy dog with a spotless record, shot without cause. We have video proof." Dr. Patel nodded, her voice low. "I'm on your side, but they're leaning hard. I can stall for medical reasons, but we need a plan." Ava's heart sank. Luna, barely clinging to life, was being painted as a monster. She pictured her dog's gentle eyes, the way Luna would rest her head in Ava's lap during thunderstorms. How could anyone see danger in that? The injustice fueled a quiet resolve in Ava, but it was tempered by a growing fear. The system seemed to protect Daniels, not Luna. Back home, the conflict seeped into Ava's daily life. At school, whispers followed her down the hallways. A group of older kids, led by a boy named Tyler, cornered her at recess. "Heard your dog's a killer," Tyler sneered, his friends snickering. "Bet it attacked that cop and you're just lying." Ava's cheeks burned, but she stood tall, channeling her father's strength. "Luna's not a killer, she helps me. You don't know anything." Tyler shoved her sketchbook to the ground, its pages fluttering open to Luna's portrait. "Whatever." "Freak," he muttered, walking away as Ava scrambled to pick it up, her hands shaking. The neighborhood, too, felt colder. Some neighbors left supportive notes and flowers on the Thompsons' porch, moved by Mr. Jenkins' video, but others glared or crossed the street when Ava walked by. A for sale sign appeared on a nearby lawn, and Ava overheard a woman muttering, "This used to be a nice town." The words stung, reinforcing Ava's sense of being an outsider. Even Mr. Jenkins, usually a beacon of warmth, looked weary when Ava saw him raking leaves. "Folks are talking, Ava," he said gently. "Some don't like the spotlight on their town. Stay strong here." Nicole, meanwhile, dug deeper, using her social work contacts to pull Daniel's record. Late that night, as Ava pretended to sleep, she overheard Nicole on the phone with a colleague. "Daniels has 7 excessive force complaints in 4 years, all against minorities. No disciplinary action. His partner, Reynolds, never contradicts him. There's a pattern, and it's ugly." Ava's heart raced. This wasn't just about Luna. It was about her family, their place in Willow Creek, their right to exist without fear. The escalation weighed on Ava, each new blow chipping away at her hope. Luna's life hung by a thread, CPS loomed, and the town's divisions deepened. Yet Ava's love for Luna burned fiercely. She opened her sketchbook, adding details to Luna's portrait, her soft fur, her trusting gaze. "I won't let them win," she whispered, her pencil trembling. She didn't know how, but she'd fight. For Luna, for her family, for the truth. The video, Nicole's determination, and the faint chance her father might soon return were her lifelines. But the road ahead felt daunting, and Ava wondered if her small voice could pierce the noise of a town determined to look away. The grey dawn filtered through Ava Thompson's bedroom window, painting the walls in muted tones that matched her heavy heart. She sat cross-legged on her bed, Luna's squeaky toy nestled in her lap, her sketchbook open to a half-finished drawing of her golden retriever. The news of Luna's fragile condition and the looming threats, Child Protective Services, Sergeant Daniel's unchecked power, the town's growing hostility, pressed against Ava like a storm cloud. Yet a faint spark of defiance flickered within her, fueled by her promise to fight for Luna. She didn't know how, but the viral spread of Mr. Jenkins' video, now viewed thousands of times, hinted at a crack in the darkness. Downstairs, Aunt Nicole was already on her second cup of coffee, her laptop open to a local news site. The headline blared, "Willow Creek Dog Shooting Sparks Outrage." Nicole's phone buzzed incessantly with messages from colleagues and community activists, some offering support, others warning of pushback from the police department's allies. Ava, slipping quietly into the kitchen, caught Nicole muttering, "We need more than likes and shares. We need people who'll stand up." Ava's chest tightened. She wanted to stand up, but she felt so small against the forces aligned against her. The doorbell chimed, soft but deliberate, pulling Ava from her thoughts. Nicole frowned, checking the time, barely 7 a.m., and crossed to the door. Ava hovered near the kitchen table, her fingers tracing Luna's toy. On the porch stood Mr. Jenkins, his wiry frame bundled in a worn coat, his kind eyes crinkled with determination. Beside him was a woman Ava didn't recognize, mid-30s with sharp features, a sleek ponytail and a messenger bag slung across her shoulder. Her presence radiated energy, like someone who thrived on unraveling secrets. "Morning, Nicole," Mr. Jenkins said, his voice warm but urgent. "This is Sarah Kim, a reporter with the Willow Creek Chronicle. She's been following Luna's story." Sarah extended a hand, her grip firm as Nicole shook it. "I saw the video," Sarah said, her tone direct. "It's not just about a dog, it's about a pattern. I'd like to help, if you'll let me." Nicole hesitated, her protective instincts flaring, but Mr. Jenkins' nod reassured her. "Come in," she said, glancing at Ava. "Ava, you should hear this too." Ava joined them in the living room, perching on the edge of the couch, her sketchbook clutched like a shield. Sarah's eyes softened as they met Ava's, but her voice held no condescension. "Ava, I'm so sorry about Luna. I want to tell her story, and yours, to make sure people listen." Mr. Jenkins settled into an armchair, his hands clasped. "Sarah's been digging into Daniel's record for months," he said. "I've known her since she was a kid. She's stubborn as they come, and she doesn't back down." Sarah smiled faintly, pulling a notebook from her bag. "Daniel's has a history," she began. 7 complaints, all involving excessive force, mostly against people of color. No consequences. His partner Reynolds backs him up every time, and there's talk of a neighborhood watch group tied to Daniel's brother-in-law, Councilman Grant. That's been quietly pressuring new families to leave Willow Creek. Nicole's eyes narrowed. "You're saying this wasn't random? They targeted Ava and Luna because we're black?" Sarah nodded grimly. "That's what the evidence suggests. I've got interviews from 2 other families, both minorities, who faced similar harassment after moving here. One had their car vandalized, another's pet was poisoned. No arrests. Daniels was involved both times." Ava's heart raced, the pieces clicking into place. Luna's shooting wasn't a mistake. It was a message, just as she'd feared. But Sarah's words and Mr. Jenkins's steady presence lit a new hope. These weren't just sympathizers, they were allies, people who saw the truth and weren't afraid to fight for it. "What can we do?" Ava asked, her voice small but clear, surprising even herself. Sarah leaned forward, her gaze locking onto Ava's. "Your story, Ava. People are moved by Luna because she's not just a dog, she's your family. My article about the shooting went online last night and it's already got traction. Protests are forming, and a petition for Daniel's suspension has over 1,000 signatures. If you're willing, I'd like to interview you. Let people hear your voice. It could pressure the police to act." Ava hesitated, her fingers tightening on her sketchbook. Speaking out meant exposing her pain, risking more whispers, more glares. But she thought of Luna fighting in that clinic, and her resolve hardened. "Okay," she said softly, "for Luna." Mr. Jenkins smiled, his eyes shining with pride. "That's my girl," he said. "I've been in fights like this before, Ava, back in the 60s, marching for rights. It's scary, but when folks stand together, mountains move. I'm with you, and so are a lot of people in this town who are sick of the old ways." He pulled out his phone, showing a group chat with neighbors organizing a vigil for Luna. "See? You're not alone." Nicole, who'd been listening intently, nodded. "This could work, but we need to be careful. CPS is sniffing around and Daniel's friends won't like the spotlight. Sarah, can you protect Ava's privacy?" Sarah nodded. "Absolutely. I'll keep her name out of print unless you approve, and I've got a lawyer friend who can help with CPS. But we need to move fast. Rumors say Grant's pushing to bury this before it hits the mayor's desk." Ava's mind buzzed with the weight of it all, but Sarah's confidence and Mr. Jenkins' quiet strength grounded her. They weren't just offering help, they were building a team, a shield around her and Luna. She opened her sketchbook, showing Sarah the drawing of Luna. "This is her," Ava said, her voice steadier. "She's not dangerous, she's my best friend." Sarah's expression softened and she took a photo of the sketch. "This is powerful, Ava. Can I share it with the article? It'll show people who Luna really is." Ava nodded, a small act of courage that felt monumental. As Sarah and Mr. Jenkins left, promising to coordinate with Nicole, Ava felt a shift. The fear was still there, but so was a growing sense of purpose. Luna's fight wasn't hers alone anymore. With allies like these, maybe she could make Willow Creek see the truth. Not just about Luna, but about fairness, about belonging. She hugged her sketchbook, whispering, "We've got help, Luna. Hold on." The air in Willow Creek carried a restless edge as the sun dipped low, casting long shadows over the Thompsons' craftsman home. Inside, Ava Thompson sat at the kitchen table, her sketchbook open to a new drawing, a vibrant scene of Luna chasing butterflies, a hope for her recovery. The past 2 days had been a whirlwind. Sarah Kim's article, featuring Ava's sketch and a searing account of Luna's shooting, had exploded online, amassing shares and comments that ranged from heartfelt support to vitriolic defenses of Sergeant Daniels. The petition for his suspension now boasted over 3,000 signatures, and a vigil for Luna was planned for the weekend. Ava felt a fragile hope, bolstered by her allies, Mr. Jenkins, Sarah, and Aunt Nicole, but the weight of opposition loomed, larger each day. Nicole paced the living room, her phone pressed to her ear, speaking with a lawyer about the CPS investigation. "It's harassment, plain and simple," she said, her voice tight. "They're using Ava to silence us." Ava, listening from the kitchen, clutched Luna's squeaky toy, her heart sinking. The call from Dr. Patel that morning had been cautiously optimistic. Luna was out of surgery, her condition stable but delicate, but the threat of her being labeled a danger and kennelled hung like a guillotine. Ava's resolve to fight for Luna burned fiercely, but the forces against her were moving swiftly, their tactics growing bolder. The first blow came at noon, when Nicole received a call from the veterinary clinic. Dr. Patel's voice was strained. The police department sent an official request to transfer Luna to a county facility for evaluation as a dangerous animal. They're citing public safety concerns based on Daniel's report. I've refused for now. Her condition's too fragile, but they're threatening a court order. Nicole's face paled as she relayed the news to Ava, who felt her stomach twist. They can't take her, Ava whispered, tears prickling her eyes. She's hurt. She needs to heal. Nicole hugged her tightly, promising to fight the order, but the fear in her eyes betrayed the battle's steep odds. The second strike landed that afternoon when Nicole checked her email. A message from the school principal, marked urgent, informed her that Ava had been disruptive during art class, allegedly defacing school property with protest art about Luna. The accusation carried a recommendation for a 3-day suspension. Nicole, furious, called the school, learning that a parent, later revealed to be Councilman Grant's sister, had complained after Ava drew Luna's portrait on a classroom whiteboard. "It wasn't defacing," Ava protested, her voice shaking. "I was just drawing her like always." Nicole assured her it was a misunderstanding, but Ava sensed the truth. This was another attempt to paint her as trouble, to weaken her family's stand. The most insidious move came that evening, as Ava and Nicole returned from a quick visit to the vet, where Ava had whispered encouragements to a sedated Luna through a kennel gate. As they pulled into their driveway, they noticed a police cruiser parked across the street, its occupant obscured but watching. Nicole's jaw tightened, but she said nothing, ushering Ava inside. Later, while Ava helped with dinner, a knock at the door startled them. Nicole opened it to find a man in a tailored suit, his smile too polished to be genuine. "Miss Thompson, I'm Victor Lang, attorney for the Willow Creek Police Department," he said, handing her a thick envelope. "This is a cease and desist letter regarding your public statements about Sergeant Daniels. They're defamatory and interfere with an ongoing investigation. Continued actions could result in legal consequences." Nicole scanned the document, her expression hardening. "This is intimidation," she said flatly. "We have video evidence, witness statements, and a right to speak. You don't scare us." Lang's smile didn't waver. "I'd advise caution, Ms. Thompson, for Ava's sake. CPS is still evaluating her situation, and emotional distress caused by this crusade could complicate things." The veiled threat hung heavy, and Ava, listening from the hallway, felt a chill. They weren't just coming for Luna. They were coming for her, using her love for her dog to silence her family. The final escalation unfolded at school the next day. Ava, already shaken by the suspension threat, faced a new wave of hostility. Tyler, the boy who'd taunted her before, had rallied his friends, spreading rumors that Luna was a rabid beast and Ava a liar. During lunch, a group of kids left a cruel note on her tray. "Keep your mutt out of our town." Ava's cheeks burned with humiliation, but she refused to cry, stuffing the note into her pocket. When she told her teacher, the response was a dismissive, "Kids can be mean, just ignore it." The isolation stung, reinforcing Ava's sense that Willow Creek's systems, school, police, community, were closing ranks against her. That night, Nicole uncovered a deeper connection. Digging through public records with Sarah's help, she found that Councilman Grant, Daniel's brother-in-law, was linked to a shadowy neighborhood watch group that funded private security patrols in Willow Creek. The group's mission, statement buried on an obscure website, emphasized preserving community standards, a coded phrase Sarah recognized from similar initiatives targeting minority families. "This isn't just Daniels," Nicole told Ava, her voice low. "It's a network, and they're scared because we're shining a light on it." Ava's hope, so carefully nurtured by her allies, wavered under these relentless blows. The CPS threat loomed over her like a specter. The school's hostility eroded her confidence, and the police's pressure on Luna felt like a betrayal of everything her father fought for. Yet, as she lay in bed, staring at Luna's empty dog bed, Ava's resolve hardened. She opened her sketchbook, her pencil flying across the page to create a new image. Luna standing tall, surrounded by stars, unbroken despite her wounds. "They can't have you," Ava whispered, her voice fierce. "And they can't have me." Nicole, meanwhile, coordinated with Sarah and Mr. Jenkins, planning a response to the cease and desist and rallying support for the vigil. A text from a military liaison confirmed David was en route, extracted from his mission, but his arrival was still hours away. Ava didn't know how much more she could endure, but the thought of Luna fighting in that clinic and the allies standing with her kept her anchored. The battle was escalating and the antagonists were hitting hard, but Ava's love for Luna was a fire they couldn't extinguish. The morning sun struggled through a veil of clouds over Willow Creek, mirroring the storm brewing in Ava Thompson's heart. The kitchen, usually a haven of warmth, felt stifling as she sat at the table, her sketchbook open to the defiant portrait of Luna she'd drawn the night before. The relentless pressure, Child Protective Services' looming threat, the police's attempt to seize Luna, the school's hostility, and the cease and desist letter had tightened around Ava like a noose. Yet within her a fire kindled, fueled by love for her golden retriever and a refusal to let injustice win. Luna was fighting for her life, and Ava would fight for her truth. Aunt Nicole, her eyes shadowed from late-night strategy calls with Sarah Kim and her lawyer, slid a plate of toast toward Ava. "You need to eat, sweetheart," she said softly, though her own plate was untouched. A text from Dr. Patel had confirmed Luna's condition was holding steady, but the police's pressure to transfer her to a county kennel persisted. Ava nodded, nibbling the toast, her mind racing. The cruel note from school, the glares from neighbors, the lawyer's veiled threat about CPS, they all screamed the same message: back down. But Ava thought of her mother's words. Art can tell stories, Ava. Use it to say what matters. She wouldn't back down. She'd tell Luna's story. As Nicole prepared for a meeting with the lawyer to counter the cease and desist, Ava slipped into the backyard, her sketchbook under her arm. The community wall, a long stretch of concrete near the park where kids sometimes painted murals, beckoned. Ava had passed it countless times with Luna, imagining her own art there. Today, she decided, it would bear Luna's face. Armed with spray paint from the garage, bright golds, blues and whites, she biked to the wall, her heart pounding with a mix of fear and determination. This was her stand, her way to fight back. At the wall, Ava worked quickly, her hands steady despite the weight of her grief. She outlined Luna's form, capturing her soulful eyes, her floppy ears, and the gentle curve of her tail. Above Luna's head, she painted a constellation, each star a nod to the nights she and Luna had gazed at the sky. The words, "Justice," for Luna arced across the mural in bold blue, a declaration that echoed the growing online movement. Passers-by paused, some snapping photos, others whispering. A jogger, recognizing Ava, gave a thumbs up. "That's beautiful, kid," she called. Ava's cheeks warmed, but she kept painting, pouring her love and rage into every stroke. By noon, the mural was done, a vibrant testament to Luna's spirit. Ava stepped back, her hands speckled with paint, and felt a surge of pride. This wasn't just art. It was a beacon, a call to everyone who'd seen Mr. Jenkins's video or signed the petition. As she biked home, her phone buzzed with a text from Sarah. "Mural's going viral. People are sharing it everywhere. You're amazing. Ava." The message lit a spark of hope, but Ava knew the fight was far from over. That afternoon, the Thompsons' doorbell rang, and Ava's heart leapt, not with fear but anticipation. Nicole opened the door to reveal Lieutenant Colonel David Thompson, his duffel bag slung over one shoulder, his face carved with exhaustion and resolve. Ava flew into his arms, her sobs muffled against his chest. "Daddy," she choked out, "they shot Luna. They're trying to take her away." David knelt, his strong hands cupping her face, his eyes, usually so controlled, glistening with pain. "I'm here now, Ava," he said, his voice steady. "We're going to make this right." David's return shifted the air in the house, his presence a bulwark against the chaos. Over coffee, Nicole briefed him on everything: Daniels's history, the CPS investigation, the neighborhood watch group tied to Councilman Grant, and Ava's mural. David listened, his jaw tightening with each revelation, his military training parsing the situation like a battlefield. "They targeted my daughter," he said, his voice low, dangerous. "They targeted my family." But when he looked at Ava, his expression softened. "I'm proud of you, Ava. That mural, it's your voice. Keep using it." Emboldened by her father's support, Ava shared her plan with him and Nicole. She wanted to speak at the vigil for Luna, to tell the crowd who Luna really was. Nicole hesitated, worried about exposing Ava to more scrutiny, but David nodded. Let her speak, she's stronger than they know. Sarah, arriving to coordinate media for the vigil, agreed, promising to amplify Ava's words through a follow-up article. Mr. Jenkins, stopping by with homemade cookies, added, The town's splitting, Ava. Your mural's got folks talking. Some are with us, some against. Your voice could tip the scales. That evening, David drove to the police station, his demeanor calm but unyielding. He requested a meeting with the chief, presenting a folder of evidence Nicole and Sarah had compiled, Daniel's complaint history, witness statements, and screenshots of the viral video. My daughter's dog was shot without cause, he said, his voice like steel. Your officers' actions and your department's cover-up are tearing this town apart. Suspend Daniels pending a real investigation, or this gets louder. The chief, visibly rattled, promised to review the matter, but David knew better than to trust empty assurances. He left, his resolve hardened, ready to back Ava's public stand. Ava, meanwhile, prepared for the vigil, sketching a speech in her notebook. She wrote about Luna's warmth, her role as a therapy dog, the way she'd pulled Ava through grief. Luna's not a threat, she scribbled. She's love, and love doesn't deserve a bullet. Her hands shook, but her father's pride. Nicole's encouragement and her allies' support steadied her. The mural had been her first strike. The vigil would be her next. She thought of Luna still fighting in the clinic and vowed to match her strength. As night fell, the Thompsons gathered, their small family fortified by purpose. David checked his phone. A military contact had connected him with a state investigator interested in Daniel's pattern of misconduct. Nicole fielded calls from vigil organizers, reporting hundreds of RSVPs. Ava, clutching her sketchbook, felt the weight of what lay ahead, a public stand that could either rally Willow Creek or draw fiercer retaliation. But with her father home, her allies mobilized, and Luna's spirit guiding her, Ava was ready to fight, not with fists but with truth. The Willow Creek town square glowed under strings of fairy lights, the evening air thick with anticipation and the scent of autumn leaves. Hundreds gathered for the vigil honoring Luna, Ava Thompson's golden retriever, their candles flickering like stars against the dusk. Ava stood at the edge of the makeshift stage, her sketchbook clutched to her chest, her heart pounding so fiercely she thought it might burst. The crowd was a mix of supporters, neighbors, activists, strangers moved by Sarah Kim's article and Ava's mural, and skeptics, their arms crossed, whispering about public safety and officer discretion. Tonight, Ava knew, was her chance to make Willow Creek see Luna's truth, to tip the scales toward justice. Lieutenant Colonel David Thompson stood beside her, his presence a steady anchor, his eyes scanning the crowd with a soldier's vigilance. Aunt Nicole adjusted the microphone, her face taut with pride and worry, while Sarah Kim coordinated with a news crew capturing the event live. Mr. Jenkins, near the front, held a candle, his kind eyes locked on Ava, offering silent encouragement. The weight of the past week, Luna's shooting, the CPS threats, the school's hostility, the police's intimidation, pressed against Ava, but her resolve burned brighter. Luna was stable, fighting in the clinic, and Ava would fight here with her voice and her heart. Sarah stepped to the microphone first, her voice clear and commanding. We're here for Luna, a therapy dog shot without cause, and for Ava Thompson, a child whose courage has exposed a pattern of injustice in our town. She detailed Sergeant Daniels's history of excessive force, the neighborhood watch group's ties to Councilman Grant, and the viral video that contradicted the police's narrative. Murmurs rippled through the crowd, some nodding, others shifting uncomfortably. Tonight, Sarah concluded, Ava will share her story. Listen to her. Nicole guided Ava to the stage, her hand warm on Ava's shoulder. Ava's knees trembled as she faced the sea of faces, candlelight reflecting in her hazel eyes. She wore her denim jacket, the painted stars now cleaned of Luna's blood, a symbol of resilience. Her speech, scribbled in her sketchbook, felt heavy in her hands, but she thought of Luna's trusting gaze, her mother's words about art-telling stories, her father's pride. She took a deep breath, her voice small but steady at first. "My name is Ava Thompson," she began, the microphone amplifying her words across the square. "Luna's my dog, my best friend. She's a therapy dog, trained to help me when I'm sad or scared. 3 years ago my mom died and I didn't think I'd ever smile again, but Luna, she saved me." Her voice cracked and she paused, gripping her sketchbook. David stepped closer, his presence a silent strength, and Ava continued. "She sleeps by my bed, brings me my sketchbook when I can't talk, and makes me feel safe. She's never hurt anyone." The crowd was silent, hanging on her words. Ava opened her sketchbook, holding up the portrait of Luna under the stars. "This is who Luna is," she said, her voice growing stronger. "Not a threat, like the police said. She was chasing a squirrel, not attacking. Sergeant Daniels shot her and I watched her bleed. I tried to stop it, but I couldn't." Tears spilled down her cheeks, but Ava didn't wipe them away. "They're trying to take her away, saying she's dangerous. They're trying to scare us because we're new here, because we don't look like everyone else. But Luna's my family and I won't let them lie about her." A murmur of agreement rose from the crowd, candles swaying as supporters clapped. Ava's eyes found Mr. Jenkins, who nodded, his candle raised high. But not everyone was moved. Near the back, a group of men, including Councilman Grant, stood stone-faced, their whispers sharp. Ava pressed on, her voice now fierce. "Luna's fighting to live right now. I'm fighting for her because she deserves justice, because no one should lose their family for no reason. Please, help us." As Ava stepped back, the crowd erupted. In applause, some shouting "Justice for Luna." Others, however, booed, one voice yelling, "Support our police." David's hand tightened on Ava's shoulder, his eyes locking onto Grant, who turned away, his expression unreadable. Nicole took the microphone, announcing a fund for Luna's medical bills and a march to the police station the next day. But the true turning point came when Sarah projected Mr. Jenkins' video onto a screen behind the stage. The footage played in stark clarity: Luna's playful hop, Daniel's quick draw, Ava's screams as Luna fell. Gasps rippled through the crowd, followed by angry murmurs. A woman near the front sobbed, clutching her own dog's leash. Even some skeptics shifted, their defenses crumbling. Sarah followed with a bombshell. "We've uncovered evidence linking Councilman Grant's Neighborhood Watch to a campaign of harassment against minority families, including the Thompsons. This isn't just about Luna, it's about our town's soul." The square exploded with noise, cheers, shouts, arguments. Grant and his allies slipped away, their retreat caught by the news crew. David whispered to Ava, "You did it, kid. You showed them." Ava's chest ached with a mix of pride and fear. She'd bared her soul, but the fight wasn't over. Nicole hugged her tightly, whispering, "You were so brave." Mr. Jenkins approached, his eyes shining. "You moved mountains tonight, Ava. Luna'd be proud." As the vigil wound down, Sarah pulled David aside, her voice urgent. "The state police are reviewing the case, thanks to your evidence and the public pressure. They're talking suspension for Daniels, maybe more, but Grant's connected, he'll fight back." David nodded, his jaw set. "Let him try. My daughter just changed the game." Ava, clutching her sketchbook, felt the crowd's energy like a heartbeat. Strangers approached, offering kind words, some sharing stories of their own pets. A girl her age, shy but earnest, handed Ava a drawing of Luna, saying, "I saw your mural. It's beautiful." For the first time in days, Ava smiled, a small, genuine curve of her lips. She'd spoken and people had listened. Luna's story was no longer hers alone. It belonged to Willow Creek, a town now forced to confront its shadows. But as the family drove home, Ava saw a police cruiser trailing them, its lights off but unmistakable. David's hands tightened on the wheel, and Nicole's phone buzzed with a text from Sarah. "Grant's calling an emergency council meeting. Stay vigilant." Ava's triumph was tempered by a chill of foreboding. She'd struck a blow, but the battle was far from won. Luna's fight, and hers, hung in the balance, and Ava knew she'd need every ounce of courage for what came next. Sid ached. Morning after the vigil, Willow Creek buzzed with a restless energy, as if the town itself held its breath. Ava Thompson woke to the soft hum of her star-shaped nightlight, her sketchbook still open to the speech that had moved hundreds the night before. Luna's squeaky toy lay beside her, a reminder of the golden retriever fighting for her life in the veterinary clinic. Ava's heart swelled with the memory of the crowd's cheers, the candles raised for Luna, but a knot of fear lingered. The police cruiser trailing them home, Councilman Grant's hasty retreat, and Sarah Kim's warning about an emergency council meeting signaled that the fight was far from over. Yet Ava felt a shift, a tide turning, driven by her voice and her allies' relentless push for truth. Lieutenant Colonel David Thompson stood in the kitchen, his phone pressed to his ear, speaking in low, clipped tones to a state police investigator. Aunt Nicole, her laptop open, coordinated with Sarah Kim, who was drafting a follow-up article exposing Councilman Grant's ties to the Neighborhood Watch group. Ava, slipping into the room, caught her father's eye. He gave her a nod, his expression a mix of pride and resolve, as if to say, "We're in this together." The vigil had lit a fire under Willow Creek, and the Thompsons were ready to fan the flames. The resolution began to unfold with startling speed. By mid-morning, Sarah's phone buzzed with a tip from a source inside the police department. The state police, spurred by the vigil's public outcry and David's evidence packet, had launched a formal investigation into Sergeant Daniels and his allies. At noon, a breaking news alert flashed across local screens. Daniels and Officer Reynolds were suspended without pay, pending charges of misconduct and evidence tampering. The announcement cited overwhelming public evidence, a clear nod to Mr. Jenkins' video and Ava's mural, which had become a symbol of resistance. Ava, watching the news with Nicole, felt a rush of relief, but her thoughts were with Luna. A call from Dr. Patel brought more good news. The police's request to transfer Luna to a county kennel had been rescinded, and Luna's condition was improving. "She's a tough one," Dr. Patel said, her voice warm. "We're moving her to a recovery ward tomorrow." Ava's eyes welled up, and she hugged Nicole, whispering, "She's going to make it." The knot in her chest loosened. But Ava knew the battle wasn't just about Luna. It was about dismantling the system that had targeted her family. The decisive blow came that afternoon when state police executed search warrants at the police station and Grant's office. David, briefed by his investigator contact, shared the details with Nicole and Ava. "They found emails," he said, his voice steady but triumphant. "Grant, Daniels, and 2 other officers were coordinating through the Neighborhood Watch to harass minority families. They falsified reports, including the one about Luna, to justify their actions. The state's charging them with conspiracy, civil rights violations, and obstruction." Ava's eyes widened. "So they can't hurt anyone else?" David nodded. "Not if we keep the pressure on." By evening, the town council, under intense public scrutiny, voted unanimously to suspend Grant pending a federal probe. His resignation followed hours later, a terse statement emailed to the press, claiming he was stepping aside for the community's good. The Neighborhood Watch group dissolved overnight, its website scrubbed, its members scrambling to distance themselves. The CPS investigation into Ava's family, revealed to be orchestrated by Grant's sister, was dropped, with an apology from the agency for procedural errors. Nicole, reading the letter aloud, let out a shaky laugh. "We won. Ava, you did this." The community's response was a tidal wave of support. The vigil's momentum carried into a march to the police station, where hundreds demanded accountability and reform. Ava's mural, now a local landmark, was surrounded by flowers, notes, and candles, a shrine to Luna's resilience and Ava's courage. Strangers sent cards to the Thompsons' home, some with donations for Luna's medical bills, others with stories of their own pets, inspired by Ava's speech. Even at school, the tide shifted. Tyler, the boy who'd tormented Ava, stayed silent, and a few classmates approached her with shy apologies, one offering a homemade Get Well Luna card. David, Nicole, and Ava visited Luna that evening, the first time Ava was allowed to see her since the shooting. In the recovery ward, Luna lay on a soft blanket, her shoulder bandaged, her eyes tired but bright. When Ava knelt beside her, Luna's tail thumped weakly, and she licked Ava's hand, a familiar gesture that broke Ava's composure. "You're coming home soon, girl," Ava whispered, her tears falling onto Luna's fur. David rested a hand on Ava's shoulder, his voice thick. You saved her, Ava. Not just her life, but her story. Nicole, snapping a photo of the reunion, smiled through her own tears. This is what justice looks like. The resolution wasn't perfect. Daniels and his allies faced trials that could drag on, and Willow Creek's deeper divisions wouldn't heal overnight. But the immediate threats were gone. Luna was safe. The CPS case was closed and the corrupt network was unraveling. Ava felt a weight lift, replaced by a quiet strength. Her voice, once so small, had shaken a town, exposing its flaws and rallying. They're its better angels. The vigil, the mural, the evidence, they'd all built a bridge to this moment where Ava could believe in justice again. As they left the clinic, Ava glanced at her father, his silhouette strong against the twilight. Do you think Mom would be proud? She asked, her voice soft. David knelt, his eyes meeting hers. Your Mom's smiling down on you, Ava. You fought with love, just like she taught you. Ava nodded, clutching her sketchbook, where a new drawing was taking shape. Luna, whole and happy, running under a starry sky. The battle had been won, not with violence but with truth and courage, and Ava knew Luna's recovery would mark a new chapter for them all. Back home, Nicole lit candles on the porch, a small echo of the vigil, and Mr. Jenkins stopped by with a pie, his grin wide. You changed this town, Ava, he said. Don't you ever forget it. Ava smiled, her first true smile in weeks, and felt Luna's spirit with her, a promise of healing to come. The main conflict was resolved, but Ava's journey and Willow Creek's was far from over. The soft hum of spring filled Willow Creek, a gentle breeze carrying the scent of blooming lilacs through the Thompsons' open windows. 2 months had passed since the vigil that shook the town, and Ava Thompson sat on her bedroom floor, surrounded by paint cans and a canvas stretched across an old sheet. Her denim jacket, its painted stars now a badge of resilience, hung on the chair nearby. Luna's squeaky toy rested on her desk, a cherished relic, but the golden retriever herself was no longer confined to a clinic. Luna lay curled on a new dog bed in the corner, her shoulder scar hidden beneath regrown fur, her eyes bright with quiet contentment. Ava's heart swelled at the sight. Luna was home, and with her return Ava was finding her way back to joy. The resolution of Luna's shooting had dismantled the corrupt network targeting the Thompsons, with Sergeant Daniels and his allies. Facing trials and Councilman Grant's influence erased. The CPS case was a distant memory, and Willow Creek, though still grappling with its divisions, was beginning to heal. Ava, once a quiet outsider, had become a symbol of courage. Her mural, a permanent fixture by the park, now protected by a community vote. Yet healing wasn't just about justice won. It was about rebuilding what trauma had fractured, and Ava's journey was far from over. Luna's recovery was a miracle, slow but steady. Dr. Patel had warned that her shoulder might always be stiff, but Luna's spirit was unbroken. She trotted after Ava with the same devotion, her tail wagging as Ava painted or read. The nightmares that had plagued Ava since the shooting, gunshots, blood, Luna's pained yelp, still came, but less often. Luna's warm presence, curled against Ava's side, chased them away, a reminder that love could outlast fear. Ava, inspired by Luna's resilience, began to believe she could heal too. One sunny afternoon, Ava and David visited the Willow Creek Animal Shelter, prompted by a suggestion from Ava's therapist, Dr. Larson. Opening your heart again doesn't diminish Luna's place, Dr. Larson had said. It honors her strength. At the shelter, Ava met Comet, a scrappy mixed-breed puppy with a patchwork coat of brown and white, abandoned in a nearby town. Comet bounded toward Ava, his floppy ears bouncing, and licked her hand with unbridled enthusiasm. Ava hesitated, glancing at Luna, who sat calmly beside her, tail thumping as if giving permission. "What do you think, girl?" Ava asked. Luna nudged Comet gently, and Ava's laugh, bright, unguarded, filled the room. That evening, Comet joined the Thompson household, his playful energy a counterpoint to Luna's steady calm. Ava chose a new bed for him, separate from Luna's, a deliberate act to honor both dogs' places. Watching Comet chase his tail, Ava felt a lightness she hadn't known since her mother's death. "You're not replacing Luna," she whispered to Comet, scratching his ears. "You're extra love." Luna, as if in agreement, rested her head on Ava's knee, her eyes serene. David, too, was changing. The crisis had forced him to confront the toll of his deployments, the gaps they'd left in Ava's life. He requested a stateside assignment, prioritizing family over missions, and began attending therapy with Ava, guided by Dr. Larson. Their sessions, often spent painting together, opened conversations about Leah's death, Ava's fears, and David's guilt. One evening, as they sketched a starry sky, David said, "I wasn't here when you needed me, Ava, but I'm here now and I'm staying." Ava hugged him, her tears soaking his shirt, and felt a wound begin to close. At school, Ava's world expanded. The Justice for Luna movement had shifted dynamics. Tyler and his friends kept their distance, and new classmates, inspired by Ava's courage, sought her out. She joined the art club, where her paintings of Luna and Comet drew admiration. A quiet girl named Mia, who'd given Ava the Get Well Luna card, became her first true friend. Together, they planned a mural project for the school, depicting Willow Creek's diversity, a quiet rebellion against the town's old guard. Ava's laughter, once rare, echoed in the art room, a sign of her growing confidence. Nicole, now back in her own apartment but a constant presence, marveled at Ava's transformation. "You're blooming, kiddo," she said during a weekend barbecue where Luna and Comet romped in the yard. Nicole had taken a lead role in a local reform group, pushing for police oversight and community inclusivity, ensuring Luna's legacy endured. Mr. Jenkins, a frequent guest, brought stories of his civil rights days, his pride in Ava evident. "You're a fighter like I was," he told her, his eyes twinkling. "Keep that fire." Ava's art became her voice, a way to process and share her healing. She painted Luna and Comet under a constellation, the canvas a gift for David's birthday, symbolizing their family's resilience. At therapy, she spoke of her mother without choking on grief, her memories now laced with warmth. "Mom would love Comet," she told Dr. Larson, smiling. "She always said love grows bigger when you share it." The words felt like a bridge. To Leah, a way to carry her forward. The town, too, showed signs of growth. The new council, elected after Grant's fall, prioritized diversity initiatives, and a community center opened, offering art classes where Ava volunteered. Neighbors who'd once averted their eyes now waved, some stopping to pet Luna and Comet. Willow Creek wasn't perfect. Whispers of resentment lingered, but Ava's stand had planted seeds of change, nurtured by those who'd rallied for Luna as spring deepened. Ava sat on the porch with Luna and Comet sketching the sunset. Luna's steady breathing and Comet's playful yips wove a melody of hope. Ava's heart, once shadowed by loss, felt full, not free of scars but stronger for them. She'd fought for Luna, for justice, for her place in a town that hadn't always welcomed her, and she'd won. Healing, she realized, wasn't erasing pain. It was growing around it, letting love and courage reshape the edges. David joined her, his sketchbook in hand, a new habit they shared. "You're my hero, Ava," he said, his voice soft. Ava leaned. Against him, Luna's head in her lap, Comet chewing a stick nearby. "Luna's my hero," she replied, smiling, "and you and Nicole and everyone who helped." The stars began to peek through the dusk, and Ava felt her mother's presence in their glow, a quiet affirmation that she was on the right path. The Willow Creek Community Park shimmered under a velvet sky, its trees draped with twinkling lights for the town's first-ever Starlight Art Festival. Ava Thompson, now 12, stood at the center of the bustling event, her hazel eyes bright with a joy that had been hard-won. Her denim jacket, its painted stars a testament to her journey, hung loosely over a new dress, a gift from Aunt Nicole. Beside her, Luna, fully recovered, sat with a regal calm, her golden fur catching the glow of lanterns. Comet, the rambunctious puppy, tugged playfully at his leash, earning a laugh from Ava as she scratched his ears. The festival, born from Ava's mural and the Justice for Luna movement, was a celebration of art, unity, and the town's tentative steps toward inclusivity, the park hummed with life. Families browsed booths showcasing local artists, children painted mini-murals, and a band played soft folk tunes. Ava's booth, the centerpiece of the event, displayed her paintings, vibrant canvases of Luna and Comet under starry skies, her mother's constellations, and Willow Creek's changing spirit. Each piece told a story of loss, courage, and healing, drawing crowds who whispered in awe at the young artist who'd changed their town. Ava's heart swelled with pride, but it was the presence of her family, David, Nicole, Luna, and Comet, that grounded her in this moment of triumph. Lieutenant Colonel David Thompson, now permanently stationed stateside, stood nearby, his sketchbook tucked under his arm, a quiet smile softening his once stoic features. Therapy and time with Ava had eased the weight of his grief, and his pride in his daughter shone as brightly as the festival lights. Nicole, mingling with Reform Group members, radiated warmth, her role in Willow Creek's transformation a legacy she shared with Ava. Mr. Jenkins, spry despite his years, circulated with a tray of cookies, his stories. Of Ava's courage a favorite among attendees. "That girl's a force," he'd say, winking at Ava, who blushed but stood taller. The festival was more than a celebration, it was a milestone. Months after the vigil that exposed Sergeant Daniels and Councilman Grant, Willow Creek was rebuilding. Daniels and his allies faced convictions for misconduct and civil rights violations, their trials a public reckoning. The new council, diverse and reform-minded, had funded the community center where Ava taught art to kids like Mia, her friend from school. The neighborhood watch was gone, replaced by a neighborhood council that welcomed all voices. Ava's mural, now a protected landmark, bore a plaque. For Luna, a symbol of love and justice. As the evening deepened, Ava took the stage, her sketchbook in hand, to dedicate the festival. The crowd hushed, their faces lit by candlelight, a nod to the vigil that had sparked this change. Ava's voice, once trembling, now carried a quiet strength. "This festival is for Luna," she said, stroking her dog's head. "She taught me that love is worth fighting for. It's for my mom, who showed me art can change the world. And it's for all of us, because we're better when we stand together." She held up a new painting, a radiant image of Luna, Comet, and Willow Creek's park under a starry sky, its colors a promise of hope. The crowd erupted in applause, some wiping tears, others raising candles. Mia, standing with her parents, cheered loudest, her own mural displayed nearby. David hugged Ava as she stepped off the stage, whispering, "Your mum's here, Ava. She sees you." Nicole, snapping photos, grinned through her own tears. "You're a star, kiddo." The night's highlight came when Mr. Jenkins approached, a wrapped package in his hands. "For you, Ava," he said, his eyes twinkling. She unwrapped it to find a telescope, its sleek design gleaming under the lights. "You've got big dreams," he said. "This'll help you chase the stars." Ava's breath caught, her fingers tracing the telescope's curves. She hugged Mr. Jenkins tightly, whispering, "Thank you for believing in me." The crowd cooed, and Luna, sensing the moment, nudged Ava's hand, her tail thumping. As the festival wound down, Ava set up the telescope with David's help, pointing it at Orion, her mother's favorite constellation. Neighbors gathered, taking turns peering at the stars, their laughter mingling with the music. Ava, Luna at her side, and Comet sprawled nearby, felt a profound peace. Willow Creek wasn't perfect. Some still grumbled about change, but it was hers, a home she'd helped shape. Her art, her courage, and Luna's love had woven a new thread into the town's fabric, one of inclusion and hope. Later, as the crowd thinned, Ava sat on a blanket with her family, Luna's head in her lap, Comet chewing a toy. The stars blazed overhead, and Ava whispered to Luna, "We made it, girl." Her voice was soft, but it carried the weight of their journey, from grief and fear to justice and healing. David squeezed her hand, Nicole ruffled her hair, and even Comet paused to nuzzle her. Ava's heart, scarred but whole, soared with the knowledge that love and resilience could triumph over adversity. The festival ended with fireworks, their bursts mirroring the constellations Ava painted. As they lit the sky, Ava sketched in her mind a new canvas, one of her family under these stars, forever bound by their fight and their love. Willow Creek, once a place of whispers, was now a canvas of possibility, and Ava, with Luna and Comet by her side, was ready to paint its future.